right. Well, welcome to our visitors we're glad you joined us this morning. Last week we finished 19. Armageddon is over. Woo-hoo. Jesus has returned. And now we're going to be looking at this 1,000-year reign. But before we do, I want to address a few things. We all know that Revelation is controversial. You know, it seems like everybody's got an opinion. But there seems to be three main teachings of this. And I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but I briefly want to address them. And so the first one that we want to look at is the amillennial. And it just means no millennial. No, millennial. The 1,000 years, this is their belief, is just symbolic of the church age. The period in which we are presently living. So they think we're living right now in the 1,000-year reign. And Satan is currently bound. Yeah. But the tribulation is still to come. After which Jesus will judge the living and the dead, then there will be a new heaven and a new earth. So they do not think the 1,000 years is literal. And some of the, it says down there at the bottom, some of the denominations that believe this would be Roman Catholics, some Baptists hold to this view. I kind of looked it up about Augustine. He was a bishop back in, I think he died in 400 and something. Anyway, he thought he was a theologian and he wrote all these doctrines. And this was the doctrine that he wrote. And you know, I kind of see that because he lived in 400 AD. So he thought, well, got 600 more years, you know, for this 1,000 to end. But he missed it by 1,025 years. Don't bet on him. So, okay, the next one is the post-millennial. And probably a lot of you are familiar with that. A lot of Protestant denominations are this. And Christ returns after the 1,000 years. The 1,000 years are seen as literal and thought to be the time of the greatest harvest of souls leading up to the return of Christ. So both of these views, the and the post, do not believe in a rapture. And that Jesus is going to come after 1,000 years, where we are premillennial. And that's the way that Agape believes and the way we teach. Christ returns at the end of the 7 years of tribulation, which marks the beginning of the millennial period. Thus, he returns meaning before the 1,000-year reign. He establishes his kingdom here on earth for 1,000 years. Believers will rule and reign with Jesus during the millennial kingdom. I obviously believe that this is the true and correct way because I believe in a rapture. The church will be taken out, and then the 1,000 tribulation. The amillennial I thought was just, why, if they're not going to believe the 1,000 years, why would they believe in the tribulation? I'd just get rid of all of it, wouldn't you? Yeah, just come, I'm out here. But that's not the way it is. Okay, so that's the three theories that we have. There's more, different, branches going off, all kinds of things. But now, we just finished 19, so you're probably thinking we're going to go right into chapter 20, right? No? Well, no. And we will, eventually. But before that, there's a time period in here that I want to look at. And also, the chapter, as John has written all these chapters, he is just doing a summary to a lot of it. We get the details. The rest of the story is back in the Old Testament and the New Testament, both of them. So, but before we get there, I want to look at something. Well, Before we go to chapter 20, I want to see what Daniel said about And I know we already know this because we've looked at it for how long? Quite a while. The next one now, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Keep going.
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell. I thought because I'm doing it here, it was playing there. Sorry about that. Oh, technology, don't we love it? I'm beginning to wonder if I updated any of this. Let's start right here. Okay. And Daniel, remember Daniel said this 7-year period is that last week that we're to have. And on Daniel 9, he said that. So he's been telling us all along that there's going to be 1,260 days from the beginning of the tribulation to the midpoint. And then at the midpoint, let's go back up to the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. That covenant is made with Israel. That's what started the whole 7 years time. From the 10 nations, and Israel made that covenant. They built a new temple. They're in there worshiping like they have always done, the Jews. But then at midpoint, at the end of 1,260 days, the Antichrist then says, no, you must worship me. And the false prophet set up this image of the Antichrist in the temple, and the whole world had to worship him, that image. The Antichrist, he's out doing other things, but he's got that image there, okay? And then there's 1,260 days to the end of the destruction that's going on. Okay. Now, Daniel throws another wrinkle in here. He starts with some new math. Okay, let's look at Daniel 12, 11 and 12. Let's see if I can find that here. From the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Now, we studied the book of Daniel, remember? Hope y'all remember better than I did. I don't remember going through this. So when I looked at that, I thought, what? 1,290 has been telling me 1,260 this whole time. I thought, what, did he forget what he told me? Or did the scribe not write it down right, And so, no to both of those. It's exactly as it should be. He knew what he was doing. And what it does, it bridges one to the other. Maybe the next one, Dad, I don't know if yours is going to show it or not. Okay. So just don't even worry about that, because somehow I did it all on this one, and I didn't update. I thought both would update.
Okay.
But it obviously did. Okay. Well, so now we got some new math here. And Daniel 12, 11 and 12, we got a new way of counting the time surrounding the end of tribulation. Notice instead of the 1,260 days, which we knew 3.5 years, how many different ways did they tell us? And then times, and half a time, all this. And all that is true. But there is this, actually it's called a 75-day interval between when the tribulation ends and the kingdom begins. It's called an interval, 75 days. And the first 30 days is right here. Look at Daniel 12. Oops. Look what he says. From the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished. Now that would have been the halfway point. Remember, that would have been the end of 1260. Yes. It's abolished. Antichrist gets on the throne. Now, he says, from that time until the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1290 days. So there's a 30-day that he is showing before that abomination ends. Now let me help you a little bit more with this. Jesus comes at the 1260, okay? But he's not going in that temple with that abomination in there. That abomination is going to be cleaned out, and we're told more about it later. It has to be done away with. And this 30-day period seems to be the time when the abomination, that's all it means, the abomination of, how's this said?
Desolation.
Of desolation, yeah, the abomination of desolation. So it's going to be 30 days later, that. And there's a lot of other things that need to be taken care of. Remember, verse 12, Daniel says, the timeline is extended beside the 1290. Now he goes, how blessed is he who keeps waiting and attains to the 1335 days.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
that's not the 1290, that's another 45 days before we get into the kingdom. It's called the interval. And I wish I could get that graphed up there, and I might be able to get it up there in a little bit. But look what Daniel says. How blessed is he who keeps waiting and attains to the 1335 days. Well, who are these that are waiting, and who's attaining? This additional 45 days will be a period for identifying those who may enter the kingdom and giving them eternal bodies. Not everybody has the eternal body here. Some people live through tribulation. They live through in their body. But then there's somebody else, even before that. Now, we know we're blessed. We've already been raptured. We've got our eternal bodies. We came with him. But there's two other groups of saints that we got to look at. Principally, the two groups waiting a resurrection at the end of tribulation. Number one, the Old Testament saints have not yet been resurrected. They are in heaven, but they're just there in soul, spirit form. They have not received that eternal body yet. They're just there in the spirit form. Because the soul, remember this, the soul never dies. Your soul is your mind, will, and emotions. And it's encased in the spirit. So that never dies. And everybody will get an eternal body. It's just where you're going to live in that eternal body is the thing. You know, but we're all going to get it. Well, the Old Testament saints don't have theirs. So they are one group, and then the next group is the souls of tribulation saints who were killed and under the altar without their bodies. Remember in chapter 6, these were under the altar. I don't quite understand that or vision that. You know, it looks too... Anyway, remember, they did not accept Jesus until the tribulation, and then they turned to him. So those tribulation saints, they have been saved. They're going into the kingdom. Right now, what we're trying to do in this 45 days, we're figuring out who's going where, because there's still a lot of people on earth. So we're figuring out. There's a lot of unbelievers still yet. And there's believers. A lot of the unbelievers was in the Antichrist army, and they were all killed, remember? They were all killed. But there's some unbelievers that weren't in the army. You know, maybe they were too old, or just like or too young, or hiding out, just didn't want to go, you know. Those are unbelievers. And so these are the ones that we're going to be talking about. Altogether, there's 75 days. Daniel 12, in that 30 days, we know what happened there. Oh, and I want to bring this out too. In that 30 days, Natalie, could you see if you have Matthew 19:28 in there?
Mm-hmm.
It will look like this.
Oh, okay.
Or you can go to Matthew 19:28.
I'm not fast.
There's something else is going on. The world, as we left it, was a terrible shape. Remember? I mean, there's just not much left. The mountains have all been flattened. Rivers are full of blood. It's just an awful place. But in Matthew 19, verse 28, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." But what I want to look at there is when he said renewal of all things. And then, did you find it, honey?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next graph should be Isaiah 65, maybe. Go to the next picture, yeah.
No.
Nope.
Isaiah 65.
Yeah, 17 through 19.
Okay. I'm sorry, your pictures are hilarious.
Well, you're not supposed to be looking at my pictures.
Well, that's where your stuff is. I can't help it.
Okay. Anyway, Isaiah said, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former things will not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem for rejoicing and her people for gladness. I will also rejoice in Jerusalem and be glad in my people. And there will no longer be heard in her the voice of weeping and the sound of crying." So this is not a great translation into English because it says a new heavens. Really what it should say is a renewal. We will have a new heaven and a new earth, but that's in chapter 21 after the 1,000-year reign. Because this earth that we're on right now is what we're going to be in for the 1,000 years. But we certainly can't live in it like it is at the end of tribulation. So during this interval in there, that 75 days that Daniel talks about, the earth is going to be restored. And we're going to learn a lot about that as we finish up in chapter 20 about the kingdom. You got to be here. It's really exciting. Yes, sir.
If you want to screen share that now, you'll have what you want instead of this.
Bear with me, okay? Sing or something.
We can sing one. What do you want to sing?
It came up and then I lost it. Mike, see if you can get that screen sharing on there. For some reason I can't. I'm supposed to drag it. He did it just like that. Bless him, Lord.
Is it fellowship hall too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hope
I'll
it'll
do it.
come up.
Here it goes, Mom.
Ah, hallelujah. Now, if I don't do something dumb and lose all of it. I'm looking for my pictures. I'm looking for my pictures. You might see all kinds of pictures here in a minute. I hope not, but
Just above Lena's head. There you go.
this should be it. Now, where was I here? Okay. Let me find what I want here. We already read that one. Okay. Okay. Isaiah 2:2, you can see, "Now it will come about that in the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. And many people will come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So this is taking place, the reshaping of earth and everything, and Jerusalem will be on the highest mountain, and a new temple will be there, and that's where Jesus will dwell during this time. And all the nations and everybody will come, get their instructions, and we will be reigning with him. We'll get more into the government of it all. The good thing I'll tell you now, though, there's no political systems. There's no Democrat or Republican, you know. It's one and only. And he says it will be true and just. So we got that to look forward to. I'm still trying to find my place here. Matthew 19. Okay. Oh, here we go. All this repair and reconstruction will be taking place in the 30 days to be fixed up. We've already heard of a few things that must happen. There was remember at the end that the Antichrist and the false prophet was thrown into the lake of fire. Well, before that happened, during this 30-day period, they were in hell, or Hades, where the dead go. Remember, they both died. They were split open, and so they went to hell. And remember last week, I don't know if you do or not, but did you? Barb takes notes, so I told y'all to read Isaiah 14, 1 through 21. I didn't have time last week to read it, but it's very interesting. I'm still going to tell you to go back and read it, because it tells how hell received the false prophet and the Antichrist.
What verses are that?
It's chapter 14, 1 through 21. And they really mock him. Oh yeah, look, you were the king of the world, and look where you're at. You're down here with us where the worms are crawling in and out and all this kind of stuff. So we know he went there, but we also know that then he was thrown into. He is the first residence of the lake of fire. Okay? All right. Now we turn to the 45 days, the balance of the 75 day that we're going to look at. The first 30 days was rectifying the disaster on the earth and preparing for the kingdom. The next 45 days is identifying and preparing those who may enter the kingdom. Only believers are going to enter the kingdom. So we have to find out who is the believers here. You know, some of them it's going to be real easy to think because they won't have that on their head. So now let's turn to Revelation 20, verse 1 through 3. That's up on the board there. Would you read that, Shelley? Would you read it from there? Just so we can all see.
21, verse 1? Okay.
Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding the key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. Continue?
Yeah, I'm sorry, through 3.
Okay. And he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the abyss, and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he would not receive the nations, or not deceive the nations any longer, until the 1,000 years were completed. After these things, he must be released for a short time.
Okay, several things that we want to bring out in here. First of all, he sees an angel coming down from heaven. God the Father is still in heaven. These angels are ministering to him, and he sends the angel down to earth, to where the 1,000-year reign is going to be. And it says he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. So there again is our 1,000 years. So I don't know how anyone can take this any other way but literal. Because Satan, it says he's going to be bound for 1,000 years. Does anybody in here think Satan is bound now?
I just had
It-
someone at work tell me that he was.
Yeah, because that's their teaching, but they never read Revelation. Most other denominations do not, other than premillennial, teach Revelation. Some even, I've heard them tearing them out of their Bibles because it confused people. So, but the point that I'm making now is that God the Father is still in heaven. Jesus is down here with all of us. We're getting ready to set up that kingdom. Throughout the entire 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, the Father remains in heaven. Only by his Son can we approach the Father, because there will still be sin on the earth. And that's why he is still up there, because God the Father will not be in the presence of sin. So that's why he's still up there. But in chapter 21, after it's all cleared out, everything has been done, God the Father will come and we will be with him in the new Jerusalem and the new heaven and a new earth. But it will not be this earth that he comes from. So the angel comes to earth with a single mission, to bind Satan. He binds the dragon, Satan, places him in the abyss, or maybe it says pit. Different translations use different words. Which he binds him for the time of peace in the kingdom, because we're going to have peace in that kingdom, remember? Oh, the kingdom's going to be wonderful. Do not miss the next 2 or 3 Sundays. But anyways, verse 3, Satan is released at the end of the kingdom to remove peace from the earth for a time. And I'm like, why? I liked him there. Why does he have to do? But God always has a purpose. He has a purpose, and we'll get to that. But it's the holding place for Satan during the 1,000-year reign. The abyss is the place which we've referred to throughout the judgments of Trib. The abyss is not hell or Sheol, though it is similar. The abyss is a place in the center of the earth, somewhere in earth, where the demons are trapped, some demons. And this is where Satan is put there until that 1,000. There's other demons there that are in chains. And I thought this was interesting. When I read that, I got to thinking about it. Remember in Luke 8:31 about the man that had a legion of demons, a legion. So I don't know how. In the Roman, I think it was a legion was 6,000. So I don't know how anybody could have 6,000. One would be too many. But he was completely, he was terrible. And the demons in him, when they saw Jesus, they knew who he was. And they started bargaining. They said, don't send us to the abyss. Let us go into the pigs. Right? Now, if even demons didn't want to go where the worst demons were in the pit, that ought to tell you something. They didn't want to go down there where those guys were.
They should repent.
Yeah.
They
So
can, I know. They can.
I don't know what these demons that were placed in that way, it's referred to, we're told it in the scriptures, that there are some that God put in the abyss and chained them. But I don't know what they did. I can't imagine. But I trust God that he knew what he was doing, so I'm glad he did it. Thankful for it. But all demons will be taken out of the abyss, will be emptied, as will hell, Hades, Sheol. All those will be emptied and will go into the lake of fire. This is where they are for right now, the unbelievers. Hell is a holding place for humans, unbelievers. Used to be the place of all the dead that had died physically. there. But remember when Jesus was crucified, he went down and he took out the Old Testament saints and all of them and took them up to paradise. He emptied out that part of hell. But the unbelievers are there. They still go there when they die. It's not a pleasant place, but it gets worse because it will be emptied. And all unbelievers will end up in the lake of fire with the demons and with Satan. Okay. Good. So we got them all there, right? Are you with me?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody with me? See where that 75 days comes in there? Okay. Next, we got to consider the citizens of the kingdom. Okay. This right here, we know the church saints are going in. They've already got the resurrected body. Okay? And then after that, the Old Testament saints. Remember, they've been in heaven all this time. They're going to go in. They come with Jesus when he came, you know. So they're going to go in, and they will have resurrected bodies too. And the church saints, you and me, we're going to be there, Old Testament, and the martyred saints. All those that have been in heaven get their new body, and they're going to go into the kingdom. You with me on this? So both the Old Testament saints and the trib saints that died must be given new bodies, eternal bodies. Not this kind of a body, but an eternal body. So the Old Testament saints are given new bodies during this 75-day interval. But something else, there's a lot of people still down here, physical people that have went through. But I thought this was real when it said the Old Testament saints will be the first time, because we're already in this body, it'll be the first time that we see them. What would be a question you might want to ask one of them Old Testament saints? Adam? Noah? How did you really build that ark? You know, we're going to see them all. We might have questions, you know, that we're going to be able to ask them. And this is the thing to bring out. This 1,000 years, we will be real, I'm going to say people, but we'll have an eternal body. And we won't have any sin. Because we're going to judge and rule some of those that are coming into the kingdom that still have a physical body. We're going to get to those. But I go off some of these rabbit trails. Try not to go off too much. But I was just thinking, don't you love to hear old people tell stories?
Yep.
Or maybe not even old people, you don't mind. But don't you? He always has a story, Mike, and I love that. I love to hear stories. And after a while, you know, they kind of become legends. At least in our family, they become legends with my... Don't hang your head, you know it's true. They become legends. But, you know, there's still going to be those. They were people too, you know. So it's going to be a wonderful time. And the tribulation saints. So now I'm going to go to Revelation 4. Would you read that, Shelley?
Then I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony of Jesus and because of the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark on their forehead and on their hand. And they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years.
Okay. Now this is talking about the tribulation saints, those that were under the altar. And John says came to life. But they weren't dead, because they had souls, and that's what was there. Your soul never dies. Remember that? The soul never dies. But they didn't have the eternal body, and so he said come to life. It was like, you know, they're going to be able to do whatever with this new body that they get. So let me see here. So now we got the church saints, the Old Testament saints, and the tribulation saints. They're all going to the kingdom. Look at that last one there. Living Jews. Remember, at the end, all the Jews that were in Jerusalem were saved, and the ones down in Bozrah went and got them, and they're all in Jerusalem too. they were all saved, but they never died.
Mhm.
So they are still they're still living in their body. Okay? Living Jews. But from going back into the Old Testament and looking at that, it tells us a lot about this time in the kingdom and those Jews that were living. And I think they're going to have their rapture moment, because I think they're going to be in that body too. Maybe that's what I think. And here's why. Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke, although I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. But this is the covenant which I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declared the Lord. I will put my law within them, and on their heart I will write it. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. They will not teach again, each man his neighbor and each man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they will all know me. From the least of them to the greatest of them, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin I will remember no more. So, I believe they're going to have that new body. We're not told explicitly when it happens, but I'm going to assume in this 45-day period that it did. And there's several more, lots of more scriptures, but these ones I just picked out. This is talking about the Jewish people that are still alive. Remember, those are God's people. We're all God's people. We're grafted into that. But as far as humanly, that's the line that he came through. He says, I will give them a heart to know me, for I am the Lord, and they will be my people, and I will be their God, for they will return to me with their whole heart. And I will bring Israel back to his pasture, and he will graze on Carmel and Bashan, and his desire will be satisfied in the hill country of Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and at that time, declares the Lord, search will be made for the iniquity of Israel, but there will be none for the sins of Judah. But they will not be found, for I will pardon those whom I leave as a remnant. All through the Old Testament and the New, we talk about this remnant. And so here's where he's talking about it too. So exactly what farm, I can't go and say, well, this was their rapture moment, but it certainly sounds like it to me. I'll let you all decide on that. But well, actually it was this passage back here talking about the new covenant. And we should all know that because that's the covenant we're under.
Yeah.
Now he gave it specifically to the Jews, but Paul told us that we're grafted in. This is that new covenant that he's made, and it only could be made through Christ's blood. The sacrifice that was given to cover our sins was Christ's blood. And this is the new covenant that he's talking about. Okay, I already went there. Jeremiah, oh yeah, I went on over, didn't I? Okay. Israel won't be partially obedient. They're going to be 100%. And this again makes you assume they're not going to be in this regular body because we have a sinful nature. So I'm thinking this verifies that these also will be with the raptured bodies. And Zephaniah 3:9 through, the time's getting away, so I'm going to go through this. Look at Zephaniah 3:12. But I will leave among you a humble and lowly people, and they will take refuge in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel will do no wrong and tell no lies, nor will a deceitful tongue be found in their mouths, for they will feed and lie down with no one to make them tremble. It has to be a resurrected body if there's no sin and there's no lies. Next, we want to look at, let's see what I got next here. Let's go to Revelation 25. Would you read that?
The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection.
Okay. John, all this that John has been telling us is the first resurrection. The dead will not come to life until after the end of the 1,000 years. By process of elimination, that's the unbelievers. You know, everybody else is going in, they're not. But they won't be resurrected until at the end of the 1,000 years. And then they will stand before the great white throne. There's two judgments. There's the judgment seat of Christ, which all of us, believers in Christ, will stand before him, not for sin, that's been paid, but for our rewards. And we'll need these rewards as we go into the new kingdom, to that 1,000 year, because we're going to rule, it says rule and reign with him. And I'm assuming whatever reward you get kind of puts, well, you're going to do this or you're going to do that, and I don't know. But, okay, just so we know that we will never stand to whether we're going to heaven or hell. We've made that decision already. We make that decision here, now. But at the end of that 1,000 years, all those that died were unbelievers will come before. I'm hoping Hitler will be the number one that comes before the great white throne. And all of them will go into the lake of fire. That leaves one group that's unaccounted for. And that is the living Gentiles. The Jews have all been taken care of. Okay, I will skip that. Yeah. I want to go here to Matthew 25:31. Because this tells us what he's going to be doing in this 45 days. He is Jesus. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him. This is all the Gentiles. We've done taking care of the Jews and the saints and all that. This is the Gentiles, all the nations. And that word nations, if you, the Greek for that word is ethnos, which means nations, means Gentiles. I'm sorry, it means Gentiles, that's what it means. Okay, 32. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them from one another, as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right. That is the believers of the Gentiles. Somehow they've made it through. They didn't have the mark. They've been hiding out. They were probably preppers. I don't know, but somehow they got through there, you know. And they're going to go on the right because they never took that mark. And then the goats will be on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." So we've got the believing Gentiles. These are all those that's going to go into the kingdom. And that's pretty impressive anyway, if you can do it in 45 days. Can you think if we had to do it in 45 days? Yeah. When Jesus returns, the Bible says that some Gentiles on earth will be believers, while most will be unbelievers. Okay? The Gentiles that was in the armies, they've all been killed, you know, and then if there was some left, that back there in Matthew is when he's separating them. Okay, so now we have believing Gentiles. They're still in their physical bodies. Never does it say that these particular people, they're going into the kingdom in their physical bodies. If you're in your physical body, you can still sin, right? You can still marry. You can have children. And this is who is going to populate the kingdom that is to come. Now, all going in are believers of Christ. So that first generation, believers in Christ. But they have kids. Well, you know how that goes, don't you? The kids are not going to live. But anyway, I looked that up because I thought, oh, and this is something else that we'll look at too when we get into the kingdom, is that we're going to live long lives, just like Methuselah. 969 years, I think he lived. That's a lot of population that you can populate, you know, and during that time, but it needs to be. And just because I'm curious, it's estimated that approximately 11 billion people have been born in the last 1,000 years. And that's with abortion.
Oh.
So I think it's very much going to be quite a group at the end of the 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a long time. Look back in history, 1,000 years, they didn't have anything much. You know, it's in that 1,000 years since then, what all has changed in the world. This is a world too, 1,000 years, but it will be divinely justice. And I, you know, I had to think, but I had to think, why, if they're living in utopia, you know, it's absolutely perfect, this 1,000-year reign. Everybody that's governed, everybody that's there, you know, and next week we'll just see what, if you're hungry, yeah, well, right outside your door is an orchard. Anyway, okay, go back to his. Why is Satan going to be let loose at the end? Well, that process of all these people going, why would the children sin? Well, you know, just like in the scriptures, as you get further away from the teaching, it gets watered down and watered down. And then I thought about this too. We know it will be justice. If anybody comes and has a complaint out of all these people, well, sometimes we always say we want justice, but do we want justice?
No.
Or do we just want it my way? And so I can see where there would be he always sides with them. Or, you know, just how we are. I don't have to explain much more than that. But just the way we are. We still have jealousy, we still have pride, a lot of things that will, even if we're living in a righteous kingdom and Satan is bound, human beings have a sinful nature.
That's the whole point.
And that's why, at the end, Satan is going to be let loose. And there will be, and when we get over there, it says they're like the sand of the sea. That's how many people are going to follow him. It you know, can't comprehend it now. Because I love him so much, and I just can't imagine. But yet I know I'm a sinful person too. And then I speak out of my mouth, I love him so much, but I get angry. I do things that I shouldn't do, say things I shouldn't say, mostly say things I shouldn't say. But I'm going to go to this, then this last one that he deals with the unbelieving. Then he says to those on his left, depart from me, accursed ones, into the eternal fire, which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they and themselves, he was speaking to the apostles, he said, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, a stranger, or naked, sick, or in prison, and did not take care of you? Then he answered, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it for me. These will all go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. That's all, folks. See you next week.